Now is the time for the big futuristic mega projects that cost millions upon millions. Though I never thought the future would be built in a giant power station. No one would have looked at the iconic, though semi-abandoned, Battersea Power Station and imagined that it would one day become one of London's biggest new neighborhoods. The station has a rich history, like a great deal of London, but it was safe to say that its best days were far behind it, or so it seemed. A massive project was recently undertaken to transform this piece of London's history into a luxury residential area. The plan has been split into 3 different phases. Phase 1 is the creation of the penthouses at Circus West. These are gorgeous luxury homes created by some of the finest designers in the city, like Lindley Interior Designs. The plan also includes access to a private residence club that itself will cover 5,000 square feet and feature a breathtaking riverfront terrace. The residents there will also have access to a wide variety of unique services. That includes their own private cinema, a fully stocked library that I can only assume looks like the one from Beauty and the Beast, a private bar complete with private bartender, a business center for everyone lucky enough to work from home, and so much more. Phase 2 is known as the Power Station, and it is exactly what it sounds like. The station itself renovated into a new living space, one that split into several different neighborhoods, each with their own iconic designs. They look like modern masterpieces with beautifully winding staircases, high ceilings, and as much natural light as you could possibly want. These are not cheap places either. They run from around $900,000 on the low side to as high as $18 million and counting. The final phase is known as the Electric Boulevard, and it is the centerpiece that links them all together. We're talking about a new, fantastic building with zany designs, more iconic apartment spaces, and plenty of shopping options. What this project mostly wants to build is a whole new vibe for the area. If you can't tell from every single picture they put out of their vision, they want to create a community of wealthy, trendy socialites who hang out on their rooftop terraces, take Instagram shots of their new state-of-the-art apartments, and most importantly, spend money in the shops, restaurants, bars, and more. On the 14th of October 2022, the place officially opened. It featured 254 flats, a host of restaurants, bars, open offices, and several incredible shops. As you might expect, plenty of influencers and reviewers have already given their take on London's new net for the city's richest. So far, the takeaway is that this area is exactly as promised. Now they just gotta keep it up. While most people have gazed starry-eyed at this wonderful new neighborhood, others have criticized it as a playground for the rich, which is exactly what they had in mind. Very few of the living areas are considered to be affordable homes. Remember, some of these homes are worth tens of millions, yet not exactly affordable. Overall, this project is succeeding in its goal to take an already iconic part of London and give it a new lease on life. Literally. It's been made iconic all over again, and all it costed them was a budget of $10 billion. The story of Battersea goes way back into London history. It was constructed as a coal-fired power station commissioned by the London Power Company, one that would be constructed in 2 separate buildings known as Battersea A and Battersea B. The building of Battersea A Power Station began in 1929. It was built to be one of the largest brick buildings in the entire world. The construction was largely praised for its original Art Deco design and decor. Construction on A was completed in 1935. Battersea B would not be so simple. Battersea B power station construction began in 1937 but ran into some obvious trouble around 1941. Of course, if you're familiar with 20th century history, you'll know that there was a pause in construction coming. That would be because of the worsening of World War II. London was besieged by German bombers in what is known as the Blitz, so this naturally put an end to the project for what some thought would be for good, at the time anyway. Eventually, though, World War II was won and London began to recover. Then came the completion of the entire project in 1955. For years, it was said to provide some 20% of the city's power, including that of the royal family. And so, another iconic piece of London was added to the picture. Battersea A was officially decommissioned in 1975, with B closing only a few years later. No one would have thought that years later the area would be home to new life and new progress once again, though there were plenty of ideas pitched around. Before it became the coolest new massively expensive neighborhood in London, there were actually a ton of proposals for Battersea, all of which would have been pretty cool. The original plan for this property would be to utterly demolish it and make room for affordable housing. This proved to be nigh impossible to get done, considering the building's storied history. It was something of a landmark, so knocking it down was just not an option. So instead, they held a competition for ideas in 1983. The winners proposed that the structures be converted into a huge indoor theme park, complete with roller coasters, restaurants. This entire project was said to cost around $35 million. That's not too bad, so what was the problem? Well, costs went on the rise while the project was in early development. It ballooned to upwards of $230 million. Any hope for the continuation of the project was further stalled by the fact that they removed the roof early on. If you didn't know this, London is kinda well known for its rain, so the roofless Battersea was frequently hit with flooding. This caused a great deal of damage to the building and ultimately destroyed any chance of this project ever becoming a viable business. From there, it bounced between being a potential hotel, an office space, and even a new stadium for Chelsea to play in. One of the most ambitious plans was to turn it into London's newest night spot. The company was prepared to invest over $1 billion into building a ton of bars, restaurants, nightclubs, and cinemas in the location to turn it into the coolest spot to hang out in the city. Ultimately, though, this one proved to be so ambitious and expensive that it looked like it would actually overshadow the iconic power station, which kinda defeats the purpose of building there. So another one bites the dust. Basically, if a business was ever cool or trendy, someone suggested that Battersea would make a good location for it. It's kind of shocking that this didn't become the world's biggest Starbucks. In the time between its primary function as an electric power plant and its rebirth as a neighborhood of the future, it made a surprising mark on popular culture. Perhaps the most famous mark on popular culture Battersea has made is its inclusion in one of Great Britain's finest band's albums. That would be Pink Floyd. Specifically, the cover art for their album Animals. As a special part of its history, a flying pig was attached to the power station. Known as Algie the Inflatable Porker, this stunt ended up causing serious problems for the city. It broke free of its line during the photo shoot and floated all the way to Kent, causing planes to have to be grounded. Now it's been made into something of a protest symbol and a huge piece of the band's history. They have even had Pink Floyd concerts and laser shows there, commemorating the moment. It was also commonly used as a location for various films. Those include a ton of my personal favorites, it turns out. Children of Men, Rock'n'Rolla, 1984, Richard III, The Meaning of Life, and Superman 3 are all a few examples of this power station's place in Hollywood history. My favorite film it appeared in was none other than Christopher Nolan's Batman classic, The Dark Knight.